The Concept 2 rower is one of the best-selling and best-designed fitness products, literally, of all time. Many foes have come along and tried to usurp their authority. None have got even close. That was until, I think, today. One company, the one who probably sells more Concept 2 rowers than anybody else in the world, Rowerg Fitness, thought they were up to the challenge. Is this as good or one I would recommend in a similar vein as the C2? Hey guys, this is Coop from Garage Gym Reviews. Today I'm actually back in my garage gym. We haven't shot here in a while. That's because I don't like people in my house. But today we are reviewing the Rowerg Echo Rower. Also, we're gonna do a new walkthrough of my garage gym because it's changed a lot. The reason we're shooting in this angle is because everywhere you look is gym equipment. This is the only angle we could find. It's no longer optimized specifically for shooting, it's optimized for gain. So if you'd like to see that video, make sure you subscribe. Today I wanna walk through my experience with the rower, comparison to C2, and by the end of the video, I'll tell you if you should get this one or a C2 rower, because really those are your only options you should be looking at. I'm gonna start with assembly, pretty straightforward. This is designed to be shipped in as small a box as possible so they could offer free shipping, whereas the C2 rower, even from Rowerg Fitness, costs 55 bucks to have it shipped. So this is not only $100 MSRP less than a C2 rower, but it's actually, when you factor in shipping, it's about $150 less than what you would get from C2. There is a bit of assembly. It took me and Sam about 30 minutes. We did it in the unboxing video if you'd like to see that, see the full assembly process. I will say just generally, all the tools came with it. It's a very simple assembly process. If you've ever assembled anything from IKEA, you're gonna be able to assemble this just fine. Now here's the thing. Rowerg is a second mover in some regard. Really, they're like a 30th mover because there's so many companies that have come out with rowers since the C2 rower. None of the rowers that have come out have really come close. There's some that are like okay, but really the only reason you consider them is because they're vastly cheaper. Rowerg decided to do a very similar rower to C2, and I think this is an important feature. They decided to make it as similar as possible, so you could use it in competition and it wouldn't give you necessarily a performance enhancement if you were rowing on a Echo rower versus a Rowerg, and then made minor evolutionary changes on some of the parts so that overall it presents in a better package. And in some regards, I think you'll just have to wait till the end of the video to see what I think of the whole thing. But I do wanna start with the stability of the rower. There's multiple modes that stability matters. There's basically 3 modes that you're gonna use this. One is the standing up storage mode. The other is the folded storage mode. And the most important is the stability during actual use. So standing up, it's very similar to what you'd find with C2 rower. The difference, and this plays out in the stability for everything, Rowerg made this slightly bigger and slightly heavier. Now, I actually expected from Rowerg Fitness, because they're known for things being overbuilt, honestly to their detriment. There's some things that Rowerg makes and it's like, why is this so heavy? Like I have no need for this to be able to hold 5,000 pounds. Rowerg didn't do that on this. They made it slightly heavier and you can feel it during use. It feels more stable, but part of that heft comes from the fact that they're using a wider, thicker, heavier base. For some type of rowing and some people, that's gonna matter. For others during use, that's not gonna matter as much. One person I think about in this regard is the world's strongest man competitor, Brian Shaw. He did a 100-meter row, and when he started rowing, he pulled so hard that the front started lifting up on the rower. So in order to actually compete in the competition, he had to have 2 guys stand on the back legs so he could pull as hard as possible. Pretty ridiculous. One reason for that is because that rower is designed less for like the short-term sprints and more so for the longer duration stuff. I would say with the Echo rower, it's designed and will do better for both longer duration and shorter duration from a stability standpoint. And a lot of that is because it weighs more, not too much to where it's like cumbersome to move around, but also because it's got a wider base, it's just gonna be more stable. I'd actually like to see a comparison of Brian Shaw doing a 100-meter row on that, or Eddie Hall on that versus a C2 rower. I'd just be curious. I mean, Brian Shaw is a Rowerg athlete, or at least used to be. I think it's something they should do. It'd be cool marketing. Now, the other mode where stability matters is, it's less so, but if you're like me and you have banshees for kids and they think that everything in your house is just a manufactured tree to climb on, you would definitely like stability during storage mode. And so Upright storage, it's a little bit more stable than the C2, really similar. The only reason it's a little bit more stable is because of the legs are a little bit wider. But really where the stability comes in is the fact that this one folds into a storage mode, clips in and collapses, stays there, and is very stable in that mode due to the center of mass being a little bit lower. The C2 rower, you know this if you ever used one when it's standing up, it's not like it's unstable, but it's like if you just tap it, it moves side to side. Thankfully, I've never had one fall on anybody, and I've never really heard about that happening, but having more stability is nice, and also having something that's just very compact is really nice. One thing that was kind of funny, I noticed C2, after this was released and everybody's remarking on the foldable feature, they posted a photo of theirs basically collapsed in half and was like, well, ours can do that too and has ever since the beginning. The difference is, although C2s can do that, the rail actually completely detaches and is separate, whereas with this one, there's a hinge and it folds down all the way. Also, thanks to the turf tires, which I'll comment in a moment of what I think of them, but they aid too in the unit coming together. They also include this small plastic clip that basically holds the seat so it prevents it from rolling up and down. Kind of a cool, unique feature. They added their logo on there, like they actually thought through it. One of my thoughts though is that thing is gonna get lost so quick in most home gyms or commercial gyms because it's not like permanently attached. You just take it off and you can put it in your pocket, walk off with it. I foresee that happening a lot or getting lost, but it's a nice thought through feature that they included. Now, one of the reasons it can be stable during use is they have this snap clip in between them that attaches it and locks down. Nobody has been able, including myself, to exhaustively test this clip, except for maybe Rowerg, I don't know. They didn't release like duty cycle data on this. I will say, if that thing breaks, that is a very important part and will be used a lot for people that are folding this after every use. So I just hope, one, that Rowerg comes out with extra parts for this. C2 is an incredible company that has parts, spare parts for everything. They don't upcharge on the parts and they care about their customers. Rowerg, they're pretty much the same way. They care about their customers, they're gonna take care of you. That is one of the pieces though on this entire unit that I think is most likely to break. We'll see over time. I haven't had any issues. I just want to make it clear, if there is something on this that I'm worried about breaking, that is the piece that is most likely to from my perspective. Now, one thing, and this is a goofy one, but probably my favorite feature on this that's been added versus a C2 rower, and it's actually something I commented on maybe like 5-6 years ago when I did a review on the Titan Air bike. It was the first one that featured turf tires on a conditioning piece of equipment. And me and Sam kind of made a joke in that video, like, man, I wish every conditioning piece of equipment had turf tires. Well, about 5-6 years later, we now have it on a rower. And after you use this, you'll realize, man, everything should have turf tires. It is so nice, so easy to use. I'm so glad they made them the polyurethane versus like an actual rubber tire that had to be aired up. Like after you use it, you're gonna be like, man, why didn't they think of this sooner? What I've noticed, and you'll kind of see this as a common theme, Rowerg kept the things that everybody likes and doesn't think should be changed and just made minor adjustments, minor improvements on things that would actually be better in use. An example of this is the quick release foot straps. The strap itself is similar to what C2's using. It is thicker and wider, classic Rowerg. Everything else is pretty much the same, but that ability to quickly release the strap, and you don't have to tighten every time, you don't have to loosen it, it clips in really tight. You know it's secure because there's like an audible click and it feels very tight. Overall, they did really well on this. You also see some extra branding on the edge of the strap. There's not a single sticker on this. If it's a logo, including like the one on the rubber strap or on the handle or the one painted on the side, it's all permanent, which I really like. Then moving up to the cockpit, starting with the handle, they left it exactly as Concept 2 has. Honestly, the Concept 2 rower handle has like the perfect ergonomics. Feels great, it's got enough rubber. I mean, the Rowerg Echo handle, it's like they 3D modeled it and made the exact one. It feels the exact same. It hooks into a slightly different clip that has a little bit more plastic backing, probably to protect the powder coat on the metal. Other than that though, that whole like sequence of like putting it in, taking it out, the feel of it, everything like that, it's gonna be exactly what you're used to. It's actually attached to a very similar chain. The internals with the shock cord and everything are pretty similar. One like pro tip, whether you have a C2 rower or a Rowerg Echo rower is when you fold it up or you're done using it, most people like putting it into that clip, that holder that holds the handle. Don't do that. If you're not using it, unclip it, put it all the way in. It'll prevent you from having to prematurely replace the shock cord, because if you just leave it in that, it's tightened, where if you put it all the way in, it's loosened. On the side of where the chain enters into the machine, there's actually a spring-loaded adjustable like marker. It goes up and down. At first I was like, what is this for? Actually on their website, there's like nothing that talks about it. Basically, this is so you can mark how much movement you have in your chain to try and be as efficient as possible. This would be great for like coaching purposes. It allows you to basically have a marker to tell you where you want to set your chain height, and then any deviation of that, you can see it very clearly. Moving up to one of the most important parts, that is the monitor. So one thing I said in the unboxing is that we were working on a test to basically compare the metrics on this versus a C2 rower. You could have two different people rowing on them and compare it, but people are fallible. There's gonna be issues and differences between them. So Sam came up with this idea to add this motorized arm.
Well, it's pulling, but we're not getting any metrics up here. So probably gonna have to figure out how to do a longer run with it.
Basically, we've been trying to figure out a way for the Echo rower to test, so we can test it side by side with the C2 and test the metrics. Because one of the things they say is you can use them side by side. This is honestly gonna be a crazy popular fitness product. And so them to make that claim, like it really matters. So we want to test it in-house. He came up with a first version that did not work. We went back to the drawing board and we used the Beyond Power Voltra, and he says it works. This is my first time seeing it too, so let's see. Man, sick. Okay. I like your coat, by the way. Walk me through what we're working with.
We used, I believe that's a 100-pound resistance band. And so what that's doing is whenever it gets to this point, it's then pulling it back as the machine releases it. And then the machine catches it and pulls it back in.
Dang, that's pretty cool.
We're getting some metrics. It's gone through 568 reps.
This is definitely testing the Voltra too, because this is hot.
We're gonna get the thermal camera and see how hot it actually is. It's running 138 degrees on that side.
It's hot. We're basically gonna have to dial this in for meters so you can test this side by side with the C2. But I think this should give us an accurate read. If you take, we're gonna keep the metrics on this, keep the distance, keep the band, everything like that. And then essentially set a timer, see how many meters you can get, just see if they're tracking similarly. Nice job.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandon, for your help today and walking me through how to use Beyond Power. Do you want to grab the fire extinguisher from by the front door just in case?
We're still working on that, and when we get it done, we're gonna show you. I will say though, if you're just like, are they close enough? Yeah, they're very close. And actually the monitor I like better, which is really hard for me to say because the PM5 is so good. On the Rowerg Echo rower, it's a little bit bigger, landscape orientation, very well backlit. You can see the numbers very well. The flywheel is calibrated, so it's very smooth. It's easy to change the damper on the side. In fact, it's actually easier than the C2 rower when you're actually on the rower because it's a little bit longer knob, so it's easier to reach and grab and move. It actually has a phone holder integrated that's spring-loaded on the top, whereas before, if you went with C2, you had to buy like a third party that's like a rubber thing that fits on the top. So overall, the monitor and the experience on that side is very similar, if not the same as C2, and maybe a little bit better. Lastly, to like the overall design, fit and finish, and also what I think about just the value proposition, this is designed to beat C2. It's designed to do everything that C2 does well, which is a lot. C2 deserves so much credit. They're the ones who really came up with the Rowerg, which is so good. Used to be called the Model D, actually all the way back to the Model A. They were really the industry trailblazers. It's been so long since anybody has given them any competition, and this one does it. Is this as good or one I would recommend in a similar vein as the C2? Yeah. If I was to buy a rower today, just being honest, this is the rower I'd get. And I almost hate saying it, like just being truthful, because C2 is an incredible company. They're a smaller company. They're a small American company. They're awesome, and their products are awesome. But I'm not kidding. Not only did Rowerg beat them in terms of what was good and adding features that people would really like, but they smoked them on price. $895, free shipping, about 150 bucks less. Like, I don't really see a reason to get a C2 Rowerg. Like this is that good. If the durability on this proves to be true over the next, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years in like a commercial setting, man, this one beats the Rowerg by far. Like for the price, the features, it's that good. I wasn't expecting this from Rowerg. And I bet C2 is like, I bet they weren't liking it either. But what I say is C2, go back to the drawing board and innovate. The door's open, the water's rushing in. It's like, I foresee Rowerg coming out the ski erg. I foresee Rowerg coming out with a bike erg. They've got the flywheel calibrated. They figured out the algorithm essentially. Now it's just adding on the other stuff. And I think Rowerg could do that pretty easily. So it's gonna be a fun competition to watch. What do you think of the Echo Rower? How do you think it compares to the C2 Rowerg? Is there any like specific comparisons you'd like to see us make with this one? Let me know in the comments. This has been Coop from Garage Gym Reviews. I'll see you next time. Peace.